I'm going to start this review with 3 of the best tips you're going to get for playing Resident Evil Village from scratch. 1. When you decide to play this game like Peter's worst nightmare and Cabela's wettest dream, do not sell your gathered meat to this fat bastard merchant reimagining of this champion.
Thank you.
Hold on to your kills, because at some point, Jabba here will decide he's a master chef who can make ability-enhancing meals. If you've already thrown your ingredients away for quick cash, you're going to lock yourself out of some delicious perk buns. A veritable buffet, as it were.
Not a bad dish.
Second big tip of the day. Resident Evil Village lets you create 20 save files. Use every single one of them as you go, because the post-game is going to have you chasing currency points from skill-based challenges. Being able to zip back into a previous save to tick these off is supported. And it's actually fun and feasible to do so. Because hey, the power of the SSD. 3-second load times. Tip the third. Don't be a hero and attempt the Village of Shadows difficulty from the get-go. Take it from a Resi 7 veteran of Madhouse difficulty, it's bloody tough. Resi Village plays more like an action game now, and combat has a few wrinkles that require practice. Also, enemies are bullet sponges who will acrobatically dodge your bullets like Neo on Red Cordial. Resources are going to be low as well, so your main weapon's frequently going to be this butter knife and harsh language. Do a recon playthrough first, or else you won't be liking the end results.
Is it over?
Now stick around, because I will sink your teeth into the basic plot in a sec, but first here's a non-commentary gameplay chunk. I like to sprinkle these into my reviews, and I segment the playbar with specific topics as well, so you can just jump to whatever you want. Anyway, talk in a bit. When it comes to a basic overview of Village, it's best I made like Larry David and curb your enthusiasm a little. Look at this key art. Now, you wouldn't be out of line if you ogled that and thought, Capcom's intimating that this is going to be a Chris Redfield heavy adventure. I'm probably going to be him, like a lot. And that means that there's a good to certain chance at some point I'm going to give some boulder the business. Furthermore, I can look at this image and probably assume that the big dog himself is either A, gonna go through some personal werewolf issues, or B, he's a furry now. If your thoughts are running to any of those conclusions yourself, you're gonna find Village a tiny bit disappointing. Outsider assumptions aside, I'm guessing most of you will be more clued in fans who've been following all of the pre-release info on Village. It's likely that you already know that this is a continuation of the Ethan Winters tale, and sorry, but there's just going to have to be some Resi 7 spoilers here. Major ones. In this game, old Ethan has been moved to Europe. He's shacked up with Mia, and they've had themselves a little sprog named Rose. Like everything in this universe though, nothing good can stay as it is. So fast forward a couple of days, and Ethan is Sans family, recently kidnapped, and now on the hunt to regain what's his, in a freaky medieval estate, plus adjoining village. Some Morticia Adams understudy called Mother Miranda is in charge of tourism here, and her 4 branch managers are a bunch of supernaturally gifted weirdos who don't exactly get along. As you'd probably expect already, the basic mission structure is to systematically enter 4 distinctly themed territories that are run by these flunkies. You'll then endure their various mind games as you make your way to the top. That being said, and sort of in the same vein as that key art imagery we spoke about, too big a deal has been made of tall sexy vampire lady. Technically, we can thank horny internet folk for shining a spotlight on her, but then Capcom marketing did also jump on that bandwagon to make her something of a poster child. Once again, curb your enthusiasm here. Go in not expecting big things from her, aside from her ridiculous height. Do that, and you'll not be disappointed. Next up, I'm going to talk combat, but why talk when I can show you? When it comes to busting heads, Resi Village hasn't evolved a huge amount. Biggest change for me, inventory management is no longer done in real time. So no more getting your butt bit while you're Tetrising your boomsticks about. In other news, Ethan Winters still has 4 arms of steel. You can hold L1 at any time to seriously reduce incoming melee damage, even if they're swinging axes at you. That said, this time around, if you press L1 again at just the right time after a block, you can effectively boot your attacker backwards and cause a stagger opportunity. It's an incredibly useful mechanic, because Village is riffing heavily on the more action-tastic combat encounters that we saw in Resident Evil 4. If you've never played it, basically you needed to constantly create space between you and large crowds of enemies. Ethan turtling up and pushing foes away, instead of tactically staggering and roundhousing them like Leon did back in the day, feels less satisfying, and there are some quirks to this mechanic that are a little immersion breaking in their game logic. Here's the thing, there are early cutscenes where lichens rip considerable chunks out of your person, with one bite. It makes little sense then that Ethan can just relentlessly block jaw assaults in gameplay, all day every day. But look, it's not like we haven't had to suspend our disbelief before when it comes to Ethan and what his limbs can take. Quit your whinging, mate. Just stitch it back on. She'll be right. Anyway, more importantly, you can only use the pushback mechanic if you have a gun equipped. Knife wielders can't. On the higher difficulties, this basically forces you to do this weird little shank shuffle, where you're equipping empty guns to block and stagger people, then whipping out your pig sticker to finish the job. It's a bit weird. As for other interesting things that you can do, you can use movable barricades to block points of ingress. Once again, Resi 4 was great for these. Village sure does its best to mimic those tense scenarios where you're trying to hold down a defense in a heavily besieged crap shack. That's still lots of fun, but I don't think Capcom has cribbed quite enough from the past. In Resi 4, we were given more options to displace, sometimes really stylishly, and we had faster mobility to better defend or tactically abandon our little Alamos. Village just expects you to barricade one available door and sheepishly pot-shot through windows until the intruders inevitably breach in. Then you're kind of forced to awkwardly zigzag your way out the front door. Many times there's not even a second door. And when it comes to using windows, Ethan's basically a Linux user. He's just not into it. Old mate's just not keen on doing action movie jumps through them. Sometimes your best escape plan might be to just shoot a flour bag to stall the hordes. I'd prefer to save the bullet myself. Bottom line here, I loved playing these desperate running battles in Village. It's just that too often I found myself thinking, this has been done before, slightly better. I much prefer the claustrophobic, indoor, maze-like encounters in this game, where you're being relentlessly stalked by either unbeatable or incredibly tough to drop enemies. Village provides a number of these opportunities, and while it's frustrating that these moments make your Texan level of gun pimping obsession all for naught, it's gratifying when you kill these juggernauts using your smarts instead. While we're talking obsessions, I got thoroughly addicted to looting these locales for the scratch needed to supersize my shotties. If you want to fully upgrade guns like the following, well, you're just going to need to keep a very, very sharp eye out for twinkling gems and shootable gilded cages. Along with a few dexterity challenges like this one, Village also offers a handful of nifty puzzles that are prominently telegraphed off the beaten track. There'll be decent tests of your noodle and are well worth the agony. All told, I found the action in Village to be quite solid. That said, now that Capcom is inching the formula out into broader meadows and Resi 4 inspired battles, I think I would have liked it if Ethan was just a touch more responsive. Who knows, you might feel the same when you get to the unlockable Mercenaries mode that's all about gung-ho, timed combat challenges. At the moment, it's a 4-stage affair, with each of those stages being made up of 3 or so mini arena fights. Getting better ranks will earn you more starter money and other opportunities to make a better run possible. You're going to rinse and repeat on these until you've max ranked them. Expect that to take a respectable amount of time and skill to achieve. And hey, the rewards for doing so are more delectable than a Jill's sandwich. Look at that thing.
Seeking something in particular? Huh? A good deal, if I say so myself.
Start! Choose an ability.
Honestly, I don't feel the need to say a lot about the graphics here, because you've got eyeballs. The RE engine was already impressive in Resi 7, it's even more resplendent now with ray tracing tech on current gen. I only experienced very isolated frame rate slips while playing on PlayStation 5. It was almost imperceptible stuff. Sound-wise, I think this game is a masterclass in tension. There's a system in place where pregnant pauses get filled with environment-specific audio tics that trick you into thinking you're not alone. I'm talking minute floorboard creaks, rustlings in the undergrowth, or the wind or something else causing a micro-avalanche of gravel nearby. It's going to take you some time to figure out the actual incoming threats from these manufactured pants-soiling flourishes. It's great while it lasts. I also have to give special mention to how great the directional audio provided by the Pulse 3D headset is. This is such a rich soundscape to wander through, and when you're surrounded in a barricaded house by lichens, man, it sounds very much like you're completely encircled. Obviously, having that tactical awareness helps a ton in the open combat situations as well. It also lessens the difficulty of finding those sneakily hidden collectibles that have otherwise got your goat. And when it comes to length and replayability, I'm a Snoopy kind of explorer, but I smashed this out on hardcore in roughly 9 hours and change. The story as a whole I found to be thoroughly decent, although Ethan and his allies and nemesis do have the odd line that gets overacted or is just a little too campy to begin with. Aside from those, no major complaints at all. Once this rollicking adventure wraps up, you're going to have tons of creative challenges to beat, one of which demands you do 3 playthroughs. There's also a handful more hours of Mercenaries mode and that dreaded 4th difficulty. Village of Shadows will take some doing, especially the opening moments where you're underpowered and can't get access to a merchant and your unlocked weaponry. In the end, Resident Evil Village is a howling success of a sequel. While it's obvious Capcom takes huge inspiration from Resi 4, a fan favourite known for radically reinventing this series, you shouldn't go in expecting the same level of evolution here. To be fair, Capcom achieved that in the last game, when we all shifted to full-time FPS. Village is more about bringing the action up to speed and escalating the number and sneakiness of the threats. Better yet, what's on this disc provides a tougher challenge and more content than the base game of Resi 7. It's got longer legs than old mate here. Basically, Capcom has just started off a new generation with a bang. Village is an evil that deserves residence in your home. I'd buy it at a high price.